Scientists are discovering more and more that the traditional monolithic way of thinking within science, let's say between physics and chemistry, between biology and mechanics, I think those silos have limited the potential of discovering new knowledge. And that boundary is now being expanded beyond just sciences themselves to science and social science, like behavioral economics, for example, which is psychology and economics. And now we are leaning toward religion more and more and toward philosophy to learn new exciting fields of understanding human behavior, human body. Just to give an example, at Emory University, today, the School of Medicine, the top scientists, both MD and PhD, are learning from the meditation monks to see how meditation changes the brain through the scientific way approach, and also, in fact, how it changes the body. This mind-body fusion and understanding is becoming very common stream. And my view is that it's going to go beyond mind and body, but mind, body, and spirituality. Jainism is probably the perfect philosophy suited for scientific research. That is because Jainism's fundamental objective is for self-preservation, well-being of the human, both physically and mentally, as well as, in fact, for self-enlightenment, or what we call self-actualization. What we study in psychology actually is becoming a lot more biological, and what we study in biological is becoming a lot more, in fact, things of mind. So the convergence between mind, body, and spirituality, there is no religion that can offer more possible hypotheses, possible theories, constructs for scientific inquiry. And as I say, Jainism actually has contributed historically. It is probably the only religion that scientists have really been fascinated. For example, it is the religion that talked about, with our typical scientific approach, about the presence of the cell structure both in humans as well as, in fact, in plants, vegetation, and animals. It is the religion that also talked about how we have bacteria and virus both in the air as well as in water, which is a major discovery in terms of public health, in terms of epidemiology, for example. And I don't think the research can be limited strictly between, let's say, biological sciences, medicine, etc., or chemistry, but it can be actually even true for mechanics, and maybe true, in fact, definitely for social sciences, behavioral sciences, as well as philosophical sciences. So I'm very excited that this new millennium is primarily focusing on convergence of ideas rather than divergence of ideas. Science goes through typical cycles, and I think we are in this cycle of convergence, of giving away the traditional orthodoxies of each of the scientific inquiry, and sort of saying, how do I discover some new knowledge? If you don't believe that, think about the kinds of changes we are making in physics today with new and new scientific discovery, new and new understanding about the galaxy system. We are revising our theories. We are even questioning Einstein now. We are questioning quantum physics in general. And we are questioning everything that we had at one time for the sake of discovering something new. And I think this is true about also the origin of life, the origin of mankind, as we go back into the history through the fossil fuels and through the fossil discovery. And so I think we are in an era of exciting new convergence between science and spirituality, science and philosophy. And as I mentioned earlier, Jainism is probably the most suitable religion for scientific inquiry. Let me talk about 6 different aspects of Jainism and its philosophy that may be very valuable. The first major aspect, of course, is what I call anekantvad, or multiple perspectives. The era of pluralism has arisen in a big way. There is no such thing as the right answer versus wrong answer all answers are right. Goes back to the traditional 5 blind men and touching the elephant fable that we all learn and teach is very real today. In fact, given the diversity of views and opinions, given challenging the orthodoxies of any kind, having this multiple perspective is ideal. Now, I'm more radical in my thought, and I know my scientist probably colleagues may not agree with me, but think about the following. If we are in a new discovery process where through multiple perspectives we believe right versus right, not right versus wrong, that challenges the whole structure of logic on which mathematics is founded. There is no such thing as truth and false. Or the duality principle that we all study and teach in everything we do, trade-offs. Trade-offs in engineering, trade-offs in economics, or trade-offs on everything in life. It basically says that you can have a world of non-trade-offs. You can have a world of non-zero-sum game, as in game theory, we are totally revolutionizing our thinking rather than traditionally talking about the prisoner's dilemma, and in the trade-offs again, I think we are questioning that. So to me, this whole principle of multiple perspectives, which is probably the fundamental axiom of Jainism, is going to be very valuable to actually transform science from where it came from to where it needs to go. Its one key consequence is all about inclusiveness. Surprisingly, science has been always exclusive. In fact, in scientific inquiry, especially in the Industrial Revolution or the era of reason, we made sure that the new discoveries and inventions will be protected by making it exclusive, by giving them patent rights, monopolies, as it is true in pharmaceuticals, as it is true in any inventions. Inclusiveness, on the other hand, is a much better idea. What it suggests primarily is that it is not just the economic inclusiveness, but any concept's inclusiveness. It is not either or, it is and. And this certainly breaks whole new paradigms. I know in management, where I reside as a scientist and a scholar, we always talked about, I can deliver you better quality at a higher cost. This paradigm says, can you deliver better quality at a lower cost? Which again, digital technology has proven. If you look at the revolution in cell phone technology, revolution in networks, you cannot imagine the power of computing that we have given in our hands today, surprisingly, to a level that may be 1,000 times, 10,000 times, because it has broken the code of exclusivity. That to me is a second major proposition coming from Anekantwad. Second major area that religion is founded on is a principle of ahimsa or non-violence. To me, ahimsa is not the fundamental one, but more important underlying concept, that ahimsa meaning respect for all living organisms. Why this is so important? Because one of the fundamental mistakes we made in the Industrial Revolution, when we separated production from consumption, and we decided at that time that the industrial raw materials like copper, steel, whatever they are inorganic. We can exploit to the level of necessary where man is superior over nature or other living organisms. That is coming to haunt us after 200 years or so. In fact, nature is a living, breathing ecosystem. We all know that thing. And anytime you abuse a living, breathing person or an entity, it is a passive resistance, by definition. Animals don't cooperate if you really abuse them. Humans don't cooperate if you abuse them. On the other hand, if you nurture them, you get a lot more out of them. This is true of corals, for example, under the sea. This is true of mining, metals, for example. And this is definitely true of agricultural plants and vegetation. I think Jainism is the only religion which advocates such a strong level that all living organisms are equally important. There is no hierarchy. And because of that, the ecosystem can be preserved. There is a natural regulatory phenomenon. Don't interfere in that one, or if anything else, nurture it. To me, this is a ground for major breakthroughs, especially after this recent conclusion of the Paris Conference on Climate Change, where so many countries have finally come to realize that climate change is man-made, not as much by nature, eras and evolutions. We are finally admitting that. And admission to me is half the battle. And we have now seen that even emerging economies like China and of course India and others are willing to say we need to learn to cooperate to really, if we can, reverse back the global warming trend. And I think Jainism and its tenets can easily provide that possibility. A related corollary out of ahimsa that comes in is not just vegetarianism, which is a fundamental issue, but more importantly, the issue of mindful consumption. Ultimately, it is not the production problem, it is not the policy of the governments, but it is, can you motivate the individuals who collectively decide that I don't need to consume as much as I have the capability to consume, which means I have the means, the resources to satisfy my totally unsatisfying, large-scale, unlimited needs, wants, and desires. I think having that mindful consumption concept inherent in Jainism is going to become probably the future of most of the climatic change. Not only the three principles of reuse, recycle, reduce consumption, but a lot more meaning can be attached to the word mindful consumption. The third area, of course, that our religion primarily is anchored to is aparigraha. I think the religion was so well designed from a self-preservation and self-enlightenment. And to me, all science, especially biological sciences, is all about self-preservation and self-enlightenment. I think fundamentally by saying that from self-preservation viewpoint, both biologically as well as mentally, think about how much anger can destroy us physically and mentally. It doesn't destroy the other party that you are angry with, but destroys you. It's self-destructive habit. Ego is another self-destructive habit, and material possessions is one more. So all of this primarily says that the more we practice or more we scientifically validate first, so that the Western world or scientific world of tomorrow can really embrace the concepts, not because it is given by a theology or by a religion, but because it is scientifically validated. It is what I call evidence-based knowledge. And that primarily leads to the last area, which comes from aparigraha, namely that it really encourages us to give back. Material possessions will be self-destructive. And I know that. As an advisor to large corporations, meeting very senior executives, sometimes leaders of the world, I find people who make money without meaning is meaningless. They're very lonely inside. They are not only isolated themselves, but the society, community also has isolated because everybody knows they're only looking for their self-interest, rather than how do I give it back to the community? Giving back after gaining all the money is not as meaningful. I often say that giving back while you are alive is more enjoyable than giving back after you are dead. So practicing on a daily basis of servant leadership that says that how do I serve the community, not just the family? How do I serve a broader societal causes? Because it is not good for the society alone, but it actually makes me internally happy. To me, there is no better self-actualization and self-enlightenment in any knowledge than to say, how do I serve others? And this is very important because there is no capital in the world better than human capital. So if you take a grain of wheat and make it into a loaf of bread, the value add is only 3 times. If you take a rough diamond and polish it, the value add may be 15, 20 times. A good diamond cutter gets brilliance out of the diamond. But if you take a human being, nurture that human being, mentor that human being, educate that human being, give the opportunities, the value add is infinite. And I'm a strong believer in this one because my own journey has been like that. Society nurtured me. Society blessed me. Society encouraged me to say, study, learn. You don't have to remain just a merchant class individual. You can be aspiring to what you want to do. And I think this is a key message, that is all about self-determination. It is all about conquering things that are undesirable and achieving things that are desirable, which is the fundamental tenet of Jainism. In my own journey as a scholar, I think the religious beliefs or philosophy, especially of Jainism, has been the anchor for my own life journey. Let me conclude by again thanking the organizers to invite me, and I really wish you a great success, which I know will happen because there is no better topic today than the convergence of science and Jain philosophy. Thank you again.